Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad that you're with us today to stay curious. We are kicking off the shuttles of the month of October today, and we've got two astronaut birthdays. You're going to know both these astronauts, a woman and a man who did historic things for NASA and our nation, for that matter. And we got going to talk a little bit about our auction here, but we're excited. We got 12 beautiful missions in the month of October, that some really neat ones, and you're going to remember a couple of them, you space geeks out there, when we start talking about them. So let me say hello to Marty Winkle, my co-producer. Marty, how you doing today? You saw an astronaut at the Space Center today that I want to see.
Yeah, we just saw a Canadian astronaut, Bob, I think Thirsk, can't pronounce it, Thirsk.
Thirsk, okay. Yeah, I've not met him before, so I'm anxious to get him to cite a few things for our museum. And we'll have Canadian woman astronaut Julie Payette here at the end of the month. So looking forward to that. Two Canadians in 1 month. We'll have to ask astronaut wrangler Nick Thomas how he did that. But anyway, what we've got behind here, of course, we have the only border that matters, that thin blue line between the Earth's surface and outer space, the only border that should matter. And this is a sunset, actually, taken by one of our two shuttles that we're going to feature today. This one launched today on a top secret mission. We'll tell you all about that today. So first, we want to let you know that this Saturday we're going to have an auction. And my button's not working, Marty. My image button didn't come on.
Mine either.
Uh-oh, we've got an anomaly here in our studio. Wonder what that is. We've got the image machines gone bad. They have images in there, Marty? Or did they disappear?
No, I don't know what happened. I would think we'd have to do it. I'm pretty sure we got to do a restart on the computer.
Ah, there we are.
Okay, we got it.
I don't know what it is, but I guess when he said restart on a computer, the computer flipped out. It said, no, I'm not going to let you do that. All right. Well, let's go back to this one. Oh, we're going back to that one. Now we're talking to Bill Harwood Thursday. Don't have the auction up there. Okay. Well, we're having an auction Saturday. We will have Friday's show about our 26 space auction here that keeps the American Space Museum solvent. We have a lot of items from astronaut Woody Spring, and we'll be talking about that the rest of this week here. Thought we had a graphic up there. Maybe I pulled the wrong one up there for some reason. But here's the Shuttles of October that we're going to see. All right, and tomorrow, or Thursday actually, we've got this gentleman, the Dean of Space Journalists. I am so excited to have Bill Harwood here in our Stay Curious studios. He is a journalist I have admired a long time. We're pretty much contemporaries age-wise, and I had a 15-year career with the Associated Press and other newspapers in my misspent youth, I say. But Bill has been started out with UPI, and he is truly the Dean of Space Journalists. He does a lot of his things on X, formerly called Twitter, and he is a real source for what's happening right now, and you can take his stories to the bank. So Bill Harwood, look forward to seeing him on Stay Curious. And thank you, Jay Honeycutt, for referring Bill to Stay Curious. Of course, Jay, the former center director, who is helping the museum in many ways. But we're looking forward to this on Thursday. Happy birthdays are in order to, first, Kathy Sullivan, 72 years old. She was born in Paterson, New Jersey, October 3rd, 1951. But she graduated from William Howard Taft High School in Woodland Hills, Los Angeles, California. So sort of a California girl that was born in the Jersey shores there. A veteran of 3 space shuttle flights totaling 22 days, Sullivan is just one of 8 people in 2020 to visit the Challenger Deep ridge at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean in a submersible craft. So she's the only person on Earth to have orbited the Earth and visited the deepest point in the Earth's oceans. This is a picture. I think that's incredible. We got a picture of her Where do we have? I got a picture of her coming up on that. This is her government picture as Undersecretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere, and she was administrator for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration under the Obama administration. Did an excellent job there. Here she is in space on STS-41G. That is an October mission that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. And we have the only place in the world you can put your handprints on Kathy Sullivan's is here at the American Space Museum. These bronze handprints harvested by our godfather, Charlie Mars, who got over 30 astronauts, a lot of the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo era astronauts, to put their handprints on there. And here she is, thumbs up, either going up or going down or just doing her thing as the director of the Oceanographic Administration. But think about that. Orbited the Earth and then went down under the ocean to the deepest part of the Earth in this trench they call the Challenger Trench. I think it's part of the Marianas deep trench in the Atlantic Ocean, if memory serves. So happy birthday to Kathy Sullivan. We celebrate her every day in our museum with these beautiful handprints there. So and there she is, thumbs up, like I said, on that. Well, here's our other birthday boy. It is, of course, Charlie Duke. Charlie Duke, happy 88th birthday to Moonwalker Charlie Duke. And he is standing in front of the Apollo 16 command module that brought him, John Young, and Ken Mattingly back safely to Earth. Mattingly's still around, and so is John Young, passed away about 3 years ago. Apollo 16 moonwalker Charles Moss Duke Jr. was born in Charlotte, North Carolina on October 3rd, 1935. He was the 10th person of 12 to walk on the moon in April of 1972. Many people don't know that Duke has an identical twin brother, William, who practiced medicine in their hometown of Lancaster, South Carolina, and his brother died in 2021. Another astronaut who also has a twin is Ed White, an identical twin, if you didn't know that. Out of the 12 moonwalkers, Duke is 4. They're still alive. And you know who the ones alive are, Marty? You want to share that with us?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, I put you on the spot there.
Well, I know Jack Harrison Schmidt and Jim Lovell. Oh,
Not
Lovell didn't walk.
Moonwalker.
Right. Okay, bail me out.
Well, the second man on the moon, Buzz.
Yeah.
Buzz is 93, and you've not dealt with him too much, but you should have. David Scott is 91, commander of a lunar module, and Harrison Schmidt's 88, like Charlie Duke. So Charlie Duke is the youngest of the 4 moonwalkers at age 88. Just let that sink in for a minute. There will be a time where we have no moonwalkers left. This is one of the most classic photos of the Apollo moonwalk era, and that is Charlie Duke. There, you know it's not John Young because he doesn't have the red stripes on his thighs, arms, and his helmet. And that is the lunar rover there. Awful close to that crater there, Charlie. But he's just a great, affable guy. It has been my pleasure to meet him only because of Marty Winkle conducting these Grumman reunions for 40 years or so. Of all the Grummies, you would get together and celebrate the 5, 10, 50th anniversary of the moon landings. And here I am with Charlie at an event that Marty put together there. And he's really just a normal guy. Of course, when you get in your 80s, everybody, I think, becomes pretty much a normal guy. But really a pleasure to have taken that picture. And then here's my buddy Marty talking a point there. Marty, I'm sure you know what you were talking about there. What's the key to take the banner off the top?
Yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about because he was Capcom on Apollo 11 landing.
Uh-huh.
And Apollo 11 lunar module missed the primary landing site by 4.25 miles. And I asked him why. I had 3 options, 3 stories I've heard over the years, and one of them was true. It was due to lumpy gravity.
Yeah, it was the moon gravity.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Mascon's gravity underneath there it was, and they didn't go low enough on Apollo 10 to get that reading because it only went 9 miles down. And when they got lower, that lunar gravity was like kind of like opposite ends of a magnet. You can't push them together, and that gravity kind of moved the down further down, and that is a testimony to the the piloting skills of Mr. Neil Armstrong to figure that out right away and go on from there. That's his wife beside him there. They've been married quite a long time. This was at the Zorellas at an event that they had there. And there's Marty and Mr. 10th Man on the Moon there, and we hope he's having a big time. Charlie Duke served, of course, like Marty said, as Capcom for Apollo 11. You see him on all the videos. His first words to the Apollo crew on the surface after Neil Armstrong said Tranquility Base here was his quoted words. Charlie Duke said, "Roger, tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot." And what a moment in history that I heard certainly as a young teenager in 1969. And that was about 5:30 in the afternoon on July 20th on a Sunday. Duke served as a lunar pilot at Apollo 16. Him and John Young landed at the Descartes Highlands. He conducted 3 EVAs, and all of them in a rover. Didn't do too much walking around. Curious story about that, Marty. You want to share what he said about? I would have asked him, what was it? Did John let you drive the lunar rover? And his answer was, Marty.
You asked him that question. I only heard it from you, but not to get the exact text.
Oh,
something like hell no.
Well, he said no. John wouldn't let me drive it. Okay, and then I researched a little bit. None of the commanders let the other astronaut. So it had been Dave Scott did not let Jim Irwin drive the car. All right, John Young didn't let Charlie Duke drive, and then Gene Cernan didn't let Harrison Schmitt drive. And you're going like, gee, Dad, just, let me take it for a little spin. I want to, I trained on this a little bit. Apparently didn't have much training on it. Maybe that's something I would ask him again. But what I would really ask Charlie Duke if I had a chance to was his commitment as a born-again Christian. He's written a book about that. And he confessed that his temper, ego, and single-minded devotion to work and greed had ruined his relationship with his wife and his children. And he got back with his wife and kids, and has lived a great life. Outreach. You see this smile on his face all the time, and he's very active in prison ministry, Marty. So very, very good for him. And here's our 2 birthday people today. Bookending Nicole Stott, a great friend of our museum, lives over in St. Petersburg, and Nikki Stott is just a tremendous earthling, and we try to tell everybody, just like she does in her book, that this is the only border that matters, folks, that blue border right there. So, well, Marty, those are 2 great birthdays to kick off the month of October. And we've got 2 great missions to kick off the Shuttles of October. So let's just get into that right now. We have got 12 shuttles in the month of October. The only orbiter that did not fly, coincidentally, was the newest one, Endeavour. Challenger flew twice, Columbia and Atlantis 3 times each. That's what those A's and D and CH are behind my notes there. And Discovery led with 4. OV-103, tail number, led with 4 missions. We had 1 Department of Defense mission. That's the first one of the month, their STS-51J. We'll talk about in just a minute. 2 interplanetary missions, 5 laboratories of the 12 missions, 5 very important laboratories, 3 ISS hard hat missions, okay, And then 41G. 41G stands out all of its own with a lot of firsts and a lot of ambitious things going on there. And of course, you note the STS 95 there in the bottom row. That, of course, is the famous John Glenn launch that, without a doubt, was one of the most watched launches of all of the 135 launches outside of the first and the two return to flight. Comment, Marty.
Here we have a comment from Doug Forrest. On driving the rover, the way the Bliss backpacks and sample bags were configured didn't allow for the astronauts to switch positions, as there was a bit of a squeeze when they were seated.
All right, Doug. Well, thanks for researching that. And Doug is an Apollo artist and historian, so he probably picked that up maybe from David Scott himself or one of the other astronauts there. That would make sense because you've got a lot. It's just not like Marty and I sitting down in the front seat of a little go-kart and taking off. You got your backpack, you got all kinds of stuff hanging off of you, so that makes a good point there. But still, I want to drive let me drive, come on. Well, anyway, let's see. More on the month here. 70 astronauts can say, I flew in the month of October. 16 of those women. That's over 20%. That's a good ratio. I think one of the largest of the shuttle era, men to women. We've got 3 astronauts that can say they flew twice in the month of October. That would be Bill MacArthur on 58 and 92, Shannon Lucid on 34 and 58, and Bill Shepard on 52 and 41. We'll be talking about their missions as the month goes on. And we'll also be talking about the anomaly of Pam Melroy, who is the deputy director to NASA behind Bill Nelson. She flew 3 of her 4 missions in the month of October. STS 92, where she was a pilot, STS 112 and 120, where she was a commander. So our lady commander, only 2 of those in the world, okay, Eileen Collins and Pam Bow. And we'll be talking a lot about Pam Melroy in the month of October with her 3 missions up there. Well, let's look at the first one that was launched on this date in 1985, okay, turn back the wheels of time there, 38 years. And we've got STS-51J, which was the maiden flight of Atlantis, all right? And the mission patch we get from the mission patch book here that is a good one, published by Aerographics. Give them a plug. This 51J mission insignia, designed by Atlantis' first crew, pays tribute to the Statue of Liberty and the ideas it symbolizes. The historical gateway feature bears additional significance for the historical gateway figure, of course, for the first thing that immigrants saw coming into New York. There's additional significance for astronauts Carol Bobko, the commander, and Ron Grabe, the pilot, both New York natives. And Carol Bobko died about a month ago. So rest in peace there. What a great commander he was in the early shuttle. These early shuttle missions, all right, and this one particularly with the 51J designation. I'll tell you all about that in a second. They were all pioneering missions. This is truly, every mission did things into the unknown. So let's look at a couple of pictures, pretty pictures of that mission here. Where'd my thing go, Marty? Oh, all right. I lost my script. We've got, what's next? The blast off of this, the maiden flight, a picture I found on the internet there. It said it was this maiden flight. Huh. I'm looking for my script here, but I can get by without it there. This maiden flight, look at that, Marty. The Saturn V is still out in front of the VAB that's on the left, and you have Enterprise, what was used in the approach and landing tests there, in a beautiful rocket launch shot. That's the launch control center there, the building above the shuttle that never orbited, but still did a lot to help us understand the glider aspects of the shuttle on those approach and landing tests in 1977 out there at Edwards Air Force Base. Here is the crew, because it was a Department of Defense mission, the second one. A maiden flight, though, is a DoD mission. Not many pictures of the crew, except them just kind of hanging around, looking weightless, all right? There you got Carol Bobko, Ron Grabe, David Hilmers, Robert Stewart, and William Pales. Now, Robert Stewart was an EVA certified spacewalker, as I think Hilmers was. It was a 4-day mission, so they quickly deployed what has been now acknowledged as national defense communication satellites. All right. And they only lasted about 20 years in space, so they're not even up there anymore. So declassify the mission, but NASA won't do that. So, and once again, we chose our background from this mission of 51J. Well, now let's talk about the 41G, 51G, 51J to 41G. And this is a good point to talk about this weird anomaly of 13 launches after STS-9, and then 51L was Columbia on January 28, 1986, and then the next return to flight 2.5 years later went to 26. This all was about the government accounting office wanting to keep track of the money on the shuttles. If this is 51J, the one we just talked about, it was launched in 1985. The 5 stood for the fiscal year. Now, that's fiscal year goes from October to October, all right, not January to January. That's why 51L was launched in 86. That was the Challenger disaster. That 5-minute was part of the 85 fiscal budget for NASA. The 1 means it was launched in Cape Kennedy. If it was a 2, that'd be Vandenberg, because they're going to launch Department of Defense missions from Vandenberg on a Polaris orbit. In fact, the Air Force was buying the Orbiter Discovery just to do that. And a mission had been laid out already with Bob Crippen as the commander of that DoD mission from Vandenberg. Had that flown, that would have been like 62B or something like that. And then the letter is another accounting office thing to track all the paperwork, and though they were put down in a sequence that they thought they would fly A, B, C, D, that all got messed up because it's the government. All right, let's face it. And so this convoluted letters and numbers, that's what it means. The first number is the fiscal year, so you either have a 41, a 51, or a 61 flight, and 1 is launched from Kennedy Space Center, and then the letter is the sequence or the mission number that they kept. So this mission, 41G, is in the hearts of a lot of people. This was Bob Crippen's 3rd flight to space, I believe. He had John McBride as his pilot. We'll look at him here in just a minute. They deployed, it was really a mixed match of all kinds of payloads. They had a large format camera, an IMAX. Here's the launch. The launch was 15 minutes before sunrise on October 5th, 1984, at 7:03 a.m. So you had a beautiful, beautiful ascent to orbit breaking into that twilight. And this is one of the satellites that it deployed on the Canadian arm. This is the cargo for 41G. You've got the gas or the getaway specials, GAS. You've got some Canadian experiments, CanX. You got the Auroral Photography Experiment, APE. I don't see that in there. You've got the Earth Radiation Budget Satellite. That's the ERBS in there. Orbit of Space and Terrestrial Applications. That's the OSTAT. So a dozen things in there keeping these astronauts busy for what was then a pretty long mission of over a week, 8 days. And then they landed October 13th at Kennedy Space Center. So here are, thank you, sir. And we thank Dave Stange for watching as he's looking at the first female American spacewalk. That's Dave Leesma with the red around his leg there. He in the picture's right above my head, Leesma, up there. Cynthia Rossi's watching, and Gary Gerald, Marina R., Tom Usiak, and Carlton Bailey watching us on the YouTube channel today. Thank you very much. Tell your friends to watch us anytime they want of our over 400 episodes on Stay Curious, and we've now done over 900 episodes in 4 years, Marty Winkle and myself. There's Big John McBride there in the lower left. After this mission, he thought he was going to command a mission, then the Challenger happened. He's going to wait another 3 years or 4 to fly again. So he retired and became the astronaut, face of the astronauts at the Kennedy Visitors Complex for Delaware North, who manages the complex there. Over 20 years, John. Just saw a great picture of you the other day with Nick Thomas sharing how healthy you look and so forth. He's in his 80s. So there's the crew in space of 41G. This featured the first time ever 2 women were orbiting the Earth. Of course, Sally Ride's second mission. Don't have an idea what they're doing there, Marty. Looks like they're goofing off and having fun by balling up stuff and moving it around. But that picture didn't have any information about it. But a bunch of firsts. You had the first female American spacewalk, and Dave Leesman was out there with her, and he became a Hall of Fame astronaut. First, Kathy Sullivan, first woman, American woman to go to space twice. I mean, Sally Ride would be the first American to go to space twice on that. And then they would have had the first spacewalk for a woman, but Russia beat us out by about a month, and also sending up Svetlana as the Russian lady Svetlana for her second flight. So Kathy Sullivan, birthday girl, was right behind her on there, up there. So as the second woman to repeat going to space in there. So hope that you enjoyed these 2 missions, 51J and 41G. I get them all mixed up myself too. Wish I'd just go back and put numbers on them all. And then there was a mission called 61G to fly sometime in 1986, and it never flew. In 61G, it was actually was going to fly with the Magellan mission that was going to go around Jupiter and then go to Venus. It was going to fly with a rocket on it that was going to send it to Venus with liquid fuel on it, an Atlas derivative, not an Atlas, a Centaur rocket with liquid fuels. And that is a story that we're going to talk about on a future Stay Curious for the Shuttles of October. This is one that would have been that wasn't. So, Marty, thank you for a great show today. There's our 12 shuttles of the month of October, all with 70 astronauts on board there. Marty and I will let you know how many we've met one day as we count them up there. But I tell you what, if you get a chance to meet an astronaut wherever you are in our fruited plains, please do. They genuinely want to meet you and share their story with you. And this is an important part of America's space program, is promoting those that pioneered it ahead of us. So that's why we spend a lot of time on it, and hope you all enjoy it. So, Marty, thank you very much. Wednesday, we will maybe look at a few space items in space news. We'll look at maybe a couple shuttles more for the month coming up, and get a little bit prepared for what I'm going to be excited about having this guest on here, Bill Harwood. Let me show Bill's picture there again. Very excited to have Bill Harwood right there on American Space Museum. Met him at the wake of Hugh Harris back in February. So look forward to this Dean of Space Journalists. He is the source, the best source you can find for any space news out there, Mr. Bill Harwood. Well, until then, I'm Mark Marquette, saying thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Marty, for a great job. And I can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us.